Hey guys. Today we have the story about what if Naruto was orphaned in Overlord and turned evil. Before we start the video, guys, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, this really means a lot to me. Also, comment down your thoughts and let me know what kind of what ifs you guys want. Let's start the story. Konohagakure no Sado. A strange little figure walks down the snow-covered streets of Konoha, chuckling as he sees how dark and depressing the place looks. Almost makes me feel at home. The tiny figure praises with a devious laugh before stopping. A single yellow eye narrows as the tiny figure moves on, deeper into the dark bowls of the city. Giblet, Moldy, Gubbin. The person then calls out, and three more tiny figures come from out of the ground and look around before pushing and shoving one another. Yes, Gnarl, they all question while trying to get each other in a headlock. I sense his power. Our master has finally arrived. Gnarl said, then glared at the three as they were on the ground, Giblet having Gubbin in a leg lock while Moldy beat on Giblet's back. Stop fooling around, you useless axe of slime and puss. Gnarl snarled out at the three and they all stood at attention, Gubbin pushing Moldy to the side when he was too close to him. Yes, Gnarl, they all questioned once more and Gnarl felt his single eye twitch in annoyance. I have sensed a new master. I wasn't so sure from the tower, but I'm positive he's here. We must go out and find him at once. Gnarl stated, and the three other tiny creatures all grinned to Gnarl before rushing off to find their master. Wait, you fools. You forgot me. Gnarl then shouted while running after the three idiots. The blonde boy of maybe 12 or 13 lays in the snow. Above him is a hole in the roof of an old building nearly his size and shape. The boy blearily opens a pair of brightly glowing blue eyes, only for the glow to fade after a single moment had backed. It faded, but it wasn't completely extinguished. Looking up and turning his head, the blonde grunted in pain, feeling his neck strain. The heavy footfalls coming towards him made him quickly half close his eyes and look for whoever it was. However, it seemed that by moving his head, he had also put his field of vision away from whomever had pushed him from the roof and onto the building he crashed through. Come out, wherever you are, came a sing-song voice while the blonde prayed to anything that was listening to please come help him. There you are. The dangerous voice came as the blonde was then picked up and kept his eyes mostly closed, looking out through his lashes and hoping to catch a glimpse of his backalant. The person he saw looked to be a warrior of some kind, maybe a samurai with that armor, a loincloth-like attachment with a scarf around his neck, both of those items colored jet black, though the odd-looking helmet with three long horns was definitely not a normal samurai helm, as far as he knew, leaving his face was distorted by the shadows of his helm and a black chainmail face mask. Thus the blonde didn't get a good look at him. However, it was those eyes the man had that truly frightened the blonde. These eyes were red as blood and seemed to glow as brightly as hellfire. Found you, the man sneered at the blonde before walking over to a window and kicking it out. Nothing personal, kid, but I can't have a brat like you spoil my plans for the future. This world only has room for one overlord after all, the man sneered out, and Naruto wondered what the hell this guy was talking about. Before he was then thrown out of the building into a wall across the street from the other building. He's really strong, the child thought to himself before a fireball from behind pushed him through the wall and into another building. Upon bursting through the wall of the building, the blonde went tumbling to the side before landing on his back and breathing heavily. Looking up, the blonde slowly wondered why the man wanted him dead and what he meant by only one overlord in this world when he was just a kid. And if the guy attacking him was some kind of overlord, why did he even matter to him? He also wished he hadn't gone back into the lost sector of Konoha today. He had been having a bad feeling about being alone all week, but like the reckless fool he was, he ignored it in order to train more. You see, unfortunately for our blonde friend, this was the abandoned part of Konoha, once known as the guild halls. This place supposedly housed the guilds of Konoha. Fighter, Backbacken, Sage, and Thief guilds all once rested in this abandoned part of Konoha. They were closed down when the shinobi of the village quit specializing in only one field and came together to form the levels of ninja, but as a result, they also lost all the most powerful skills and knowledge of the guild's high elders. Recently, Naruto had found this lost sector of Konoha, hidden under a back of genjutsu he stumbled upon. Since that day he'd been exploring the place on and off, mostly after he went to school, while also using it as a hiding place for when his numerous pranks would go awry. The supposedly lost sector of Konoha actually existed in a space just south of the Uchiha sector and was completely surrounded by thick and high concrete walls. It honestly wasn't quite as large as the Uchiha's home, however, though the back of tower that sat at the base of a mountain and reached up into the sky more than made up for it, also making the blonde wonder how no one could see the tower's shadow in Konoha. All thoughts of history were brought to a halt, however, as the strange warrior suddenly stood over him before reaching down and lifting him up to face him once more. Resilient to bad, I wanted to make this as quick as I honestly could, child, but your own cursed blood seems to want otherwise. The man growled towards Naruto before lifting him back a fist and placing it around the blonde's throat. The boy's eyes went wide at this, his bacillant was really going to strangle him. Normally the people who tried to kill him preferred cutting him or trying to hack him to pieces. However, just as Naruto was struggling for breath, the man gave a roar of pain and dropped him. The blonde coughed as he tried to regain his breath, then felt a patting on his back from a tiny hand. Ignoring this and looking up, Naruto saw a strange yellow-brown creature in an old brown loincloth on the evil man's back, jabbing a spear into his shoulder before being knocked back by the man. "Ah, so you're the other. I see you haven't changed one bit, still trying to hoard all of the power of the Overlord for yourself," another creature said, this one having only one eye and grayish-colored skin. "Gnarl," the man growled out while the blonde looked on with an absolutely confused expression, while the strange yellow-brown creature the man had knocked away got back to its feet and growled towards the man. "How dare you have these minions attack me?" The man roared towards the creature the blonde figured was Gnarl. "I dare have them attack you because you're making a mistake. An even greater mistake than when you tried to force the Tower Heart to surrender its power to you," Gnarl said with an edge in his tone as he walked forward slowly and with two of the yellow-brown creatures at his sides. "Its power belongs to me. It should have known that all of its power belongs only to me. I am to be the only Overlord." The man roared out angrily and Gnarl sneered towards the far-fallen former knight, his own soul corrupted and saturated in not only evil and madness, but also greed and decadence. "Nay, you've lost all hope of being the Overlord now or ever. You lost it the day the Tower Heart stripped you of all its power, hero." Gnarl snarled, then sneered towards the blonde guessed, former Overlord who shook with obvious rage. You and that blasted heart cannot keep me from my destiny, Gnarl. I shall be the Overlord. I have killed all who tried lay claim to my tower, pillaged the tower and the city, and scattered its secrets to the winds over a dozen times, and of course I even managed to hide the Tower Heart away. You and the minions have no choice but to accept me back as the one true Overlord." The man boasted before laughing loudly, insanely, as Gnarl could only sneer towards the man. "You don't get it, do you? You lost all right to that Melanli by trying to take the Tower Heart's power. You can never reclaim either your Melanli or our loyalty for that, my former master. We can be pushed around, beaten, sacrificed and chopped to pieces and not bother to care, but we shall not serve someone who would try steal the power, no, the very soul of our home. Not only that, but you killed our original master, both of his daughters, one of which was your mistress, all in your foolish attempt to gain more power." Gnarl stated with an angry sneer once more, while then glaring at the now fuming man. "Woldy, Gubbin, Giblet. Attack." Gnarl then called out, and the three yellow-brown creatures lunged at the man, one stabbing him in the gut, another jumping onto his back to stab him there, while the last used a club which he slammed into the man's right knee, shattering it as the man fell down to one knee. The man growled like a wild beast at this, ramming his left arm into the face of one of the creatures. He knocked it into a wall where it looked around dizzily. The man then rolled onto his back, throwing another of the creatures away and leaving only the one with the club left to look on with wide yellow eyes. Chuckling darkly, the man pointed a hand towards the tiny creature and a ball of flames went straight for him. "Batter up." The yellow-brown creature suddenly yelled and threw its wooden club into the flaming projectile, stopping it as the flames hit the ground and started to spread, much to the shock of the supposed Overlord. Meanwhile, Gnarl had made his way over to the blonde boy and looked him in the boy's glowing eyes before grinning. "Ha ha, the true master has finally come forward," he whispered to himself while the man from before roared and lunged at him and the blonde. "Giblet. Stab his other knee and then all three of you get over here. We have to leave now. Before we all become a barbecue with the new master." Gnarl barked out and Giblet laughed loudly while lunging at the large man, stabbing his spear into the back of the large man's knee, making him scream in pain as he fell forward. The three yellow-brown creatures then made their way over to Gnarl, the one who had had the club, then jumping onto the blonde's back and waving towards the large man with an insane grin on its face. "Bye-bye," he called out with a laugh as they were then consumed by a blue shower of sparks, and the man roared. Lunging forward, he reached out for them only to snarl when they vanished completely. He had failed to stop the next Overlord, all because of that stupid little imp. "Gnarl," the man roared before slamming his hands into the ground, breaking the boards. He fell into the darkness below, while flames continued to consume the building completely. "You sure it's this one?" came the tiny high-pitched voice as the blonde from before shuddered before slowly opening his eyes. "Rub some acid in his eyes, that'll freshen him up," came a response from what sounded like Gnarl, while the blonde boy's glowing blue eyes opened to see himself surrounded by the faces of strange creatures. "What?" The young blonde boy questioned weakly while getting a good look at the creatures. The first looked like two of the others. It was yellow-brown, with a brown tattered loincloth, long pointed slanted ears with large bright yellow eyes, clawed four-touched hands, and three-toed feet with spikes at their ankles. The small thin body with their spine ribs visible even under their skin and scales on their elbows and knees, small spikes at the backs of their jaws, and their noses were more like a pig's snout, and sharp fangs completely filling their tiny large mouths, while a long tongue stuck out of one's mouth. Looking to the only other creature around, he saw a gray-colored creature of obvious age, wrinkles and worn skin covering his body, completely showed his age, with white hair on its eyebrows and jaw, a long white goatee hanging from its chin, the same nose as the other three creatures, two long tattered pointed slanted ears with three golden earrings in the left one. This one only had its left eye remaining unlike the others and was a duller yellow. He liked the others' hand-clawed hands and feet, but he wore more clothes. A red cloth was forced at the front of his body, with a dark cloak around his body with long slits for his arms. Leather armor was left over his shoulders with thin bones twisted into a collar around his neck and back, while a twisted bamboo lantern hung down over his head for light of some small amount. Last, he has wrappings over his forearms, and what looked like a loincloth beneath all of that. Who, what, where? The blonde questioned while looking around. The room he was in was simply put, back of enough to house what looked to have once been a grand home, a pool of water sitting away from him with what looked like black marble leading to it. However, the place wasn't very well off. It had its stone pillars torn apart, wooden beams had fallen down, the windows, if they had ever been there, were gone allowing snow to float in, old torches had been mostly destroyed, and after a cursory glance, he also saw that numerous archways had been blocked while a throne he was sitting in had been mostly destroyed. "Master, it's so good to see you. I am Gnarl, the minion master," came the voice of the grey creature, and the blonde looked at him before grimacing in pain with a hand to his stomach. "I see the traitor injured you greatly, master. Alas, if only we had the tower heart or even the whites, we could heal you easily," Gnarl said with a frown before slapping one of the yellow-brown creatures. "Giblet, go fetch Jester, he knows where some healing supplies from this ninja villages are for our master," Gnarl ordered, and Giblet nodded his head rapidly before rushing out and down a flight of stairs, while Gnarl then shoved the other two creatures away from the injured blonde. After a good 30 or so minute, Giblet returned. With him was another grey creature, only this one was obviously younger than the other, wore a loincloth with a green-red Jester's hat and staff. "Welcome," Jester said as he jumped onto the blonde, making him grunt in pain while Jester laughed, only to be knocked around by Gnarl, Giblet, Gubbin, and Moldy for hurting him. "Fool. Do you have the healing supplies or not? Our new master is injured." Gnarl snarled at the Jester, who shook but nodded to the older grey. Handing a bag over to him, Gnarl fished around in it for a few moments before pulling out some disinfectant, ointment, and bandages. "Gubbin, Moldy, Giblet, Jester, get our master off his throne and lay him out so I can dress his wounds," Gnarl ordered, and the four minions went to work without question. First, Giblet and Moldy jumped up behind the blonde and pushed him forward. Jester and Gubbin caught him as soon as they did, and Giblet and Moldy then jumped down and grabbed his legs. The four then carried the blonde forward carefully before placing him down on some level ground before Gnarl placed a pillow under the blonde's head for some minor comfort. "Excuse the state of disrepair of your tower, sire, but a traitorous overlord tried to overthrow the power of our tower heart. In his foolishness he even lost his own power to the heart. Ever since then, however, that same former overlord continuously murders our masters before we can find them. In fact, you were lucky to have survived as long as you did," Gnarl explained before skipping off to the blonde's side, while the boy groaned out lightly in pain. These burns may leave a mark, sire." "Wait, what's this?" Gnarl said, then questioned before leaning down, Jester and the other minions coming to stare as well, pushing one another around. What they saw was that the burns on the blonde-haired youth's back was slowly healing, leaving not even a scar in its place, as a small amount of steam rose from the burns. That looks like the old hero bloodline," Gnarl mused, and one of the three yellow-brown creatures looked to him. "Hero? Does that mean our master is good?" Giblet questioned, and Gnarl snorted loudly at the other creature's words. "Not exactly, Giblet. The hero bloodline was called that due to the fact most people who had it were actually heroes. However, many were also the most evil, vile, twisted villains to ever walk the face of the world. But barring himself, of course, I thought that our original master destroyed the last person with that bloodline for sure," Gnarl said to himself, and then had an evil grin cross over his face. "Then again, this master is of his line, so I should have expected him to have it as well," Gnarl mused, while adding the ointment to the blonde's burns, making him hiss out in pain. "Sorry for this, master, I would rather not cause you pain, but it's necessary if we wish to heal you," Gnarl apologized while then wrapping the blonde's wound with the bandages and then disinfecting his other wounds before wrapping them as well. Jester, however, then checked on the blonde boy's legs and looked to Gnarl with wide eyes. "The master? His leg is broken." he said, and the minions all started to run around screaming under Gnarl slapped them. "Oh, fetch 2 sturdy pieces of wood. We need to make a splint," Gnarl stated while Jester checked his arms, then his neck. "We need a second splint for Master's right arm, Gnarl. And a brace for his neck, I think the traitor may have broken it," Jester called out, and Gnarl gnashed his teeth together in pure fury before barking out orders to the minions, who obeyed his orders to fetch what was needed to heal their new master properly. Once the 3 stooges were gone, Gnarl turned to look at Jester with a raised brow. "How did you know how to check for broken bones?" "Even I don't know how to do that," Gnarl questioned the mumbled, and Jester grinned widely to his superior minion master. "I have to check myself for broken bones and the like all the time with every new overenthusiastic overlord. Ha ha ha," Jester said before laughing loudly, and Gnarl blinked. That did make some amount of sense. It also explained why he had all of those healing items with him. "Well, keep up the good work, Jester, and I might promote you to personal physician for the master, and when he gets one, his mistress in the future," Gnarl stated, and Jester grinned before running around shouting out happily about never being punched, stabbed, chopped, smashed, kicked, or slapped ever again. Gnarl tuned this out while making his way over to the blonde boy, who looked up at him and winced. "Don't move, Master, it seems that the traitor may have broken your neck. You're very lucky to be alive, but I wouldn't try to move just yet," Gnarl stated while the 3 stooges came back and laid out several pieces of wood with a thick leather gaiter on the ground as well. "Hold still, Master, this might hurt a little, but we need you to heal properly if you're ever to vacuum your rightful place as our master," Gnarl said while looking to Jester and telling him to help him set the blonde's bones back into place. As the tiny grey did, Naruto suddenly screamed out in pain, while Gnarl had the 3 stooges move to hold the blonde's head and arms down so he could hurt himself further, while he and Jester held his legs down. Jester and Moldy then traded places as Moldy held his leg down and Jester moved his right forearm's bone back into place, the blonde screaming out in pain once more as soon as he did. Gritting his teeth, Giblet then moved to hold his arm, while Jester wrapped a neck brace around the blonde's throat, then pulled on it and heard a light pop as the blonde's neck snapped back in place, but the neck brace was tight enough to keep him from moving it before he had healed. Master, can you speak?" Gnarl questioned as he moved to the front of the blonde and then ordered the minions to rest him against the throne, where his back would come in complete contact with it. The 3 stooges and Jester did as ordered, picking him up, then slowly turning to where he was facing up, then moved him against the throne in the room. Jester then moved a pilling and placed it against his back so they could set him down in the throne. Once this was done, the minions all stood back. "Master, can you speak?" Gnarl questioned, and the blonde looked downward and Gnarl made an O with his mouth. "Until he heals we need to take extra care of the master, Giblet, Gubbin, Moldy, Jester. I want all 4 of you to head out into the forest. Jester, you know something about healing herbs that humans use, right?" Gnarl questioned, and Jester nodded his head with a grin on his face. "Good, then help those 3 fools and find some, focus on ones for a regeneration potion, so that master can move within the next few days. With his hero bloodline, however, I doubt a potion would need even that long to take full effect," Gnarl ordered, and the minions moved out of the tower once more, leaving Gnarl to waddle over to the blonde. "Pardon me for not asking you this earlier, Master, but do you have a name?" Gnarl questioned, and the blonde twitched. Naruto, Yuzu, Uzumaki, Naruto," he managed, and Gnarl nodded before raising a brow, wondering what it meant he asked as much. "SW, swirling, maelstrom," Naruto offered, and Gnarl grinned. A hurricane sounded like the perfect name for an overlord, raining death, destruction and carnage down on all the helpless little fools out there. "Very well then, Master, welcome to your new home. Welcome to your tower, sire," Gnarl said with a low bow, and Naruto looked around the ruins of the so-called tower and wondered what the hell he had gotten himself into this time. Dark Tower. Gnarl paced back and forth watching Naruto, waiting for the 3 stooges and Jester to return with that regeneration potion. "Honestly, it doesn't take this long to get a simple regeneration potion ready," the old minion grumbled under his breath just before the 4 other minions returned with a glowing green vial in hand. "I made it, Gnarl. I made it. See. Green," Jester called out, and Gnarl took it from the annoying minion, tipped it over and let a drop hit the ground. Nothing bad happened, so he nodded his head. "Alright, seeing as it isn't acid, Jester, I'll give this to the Overlord. If it works, I'll see about raising a new Jester from the Grey Hive. Well, you can have a promotion," Gnarl said, and Jester grinned, crossing his claws as he watched as Gnarl waddled his way over to Naruto before leaping onto the throne. "Master, this regeneration vial shall heal your broken limbs, possibly even your neck given some rest," Gnarl explained, and Naruto gave him a flat look while opening his mouth as best he could. Gnarl then poured the potion into the blonde's mouth slowly, stopping every so often to ensure he didn't drown his master or something stupid like the others might do. Waiting as Naruto finished the first gulp, Gnarl poured more of the drink for him before soon enough he had finished the entire vial. Throwing the vial back, Gnarl heard Jester duck and catch it, shouting about it being his only vial, while Gnarl then backed off as Naruto closed his eyes and slowly fell to sleep. Alright, now be quiet so the master can sleep and won't beat us. Gnarl ordered and Jester stood rigid before slowly moving down to the minion pit with the three stooges following and snickering into their little claws behind him. Gnarl stayed behind one moment to look at their new master before nodding his head. Sleep well, master, you'll need all the energy you can get, after all, he said, then grinned toothily while rubbing his tiny claws together. An overlord's work is never done. With that said, Gnarl waddled down into the minion pit, leaving the blonde-haired boy behind to sleep and dream. A hand burst out of a collapsed building that had been set ablaze. An arm then followed the hand as a familiar dark figure pulled he from the ruins of the building, growling out angrily once he was free. Gnarl, he growled out before turning towards a tower in the distance and growled out angrily. My plans will not be ruined by you or your new overlord. I will have my power, my tower back, whether or not you or that blasted heart want it. With that said, the man pulled himself out of the rubble and then panted out a few breaths of air. Gather strength, young overlord, for once you have regained my power for me, I shall bury you. And take back what is rightfully mine, growled out the man with his eyes still burning red. Groaning in pain, the man stumbled off, grunting and groaning, as he knew he'd need to find another unicorn to feed off of if he wanted to survive long enough to get back what he felt was truly and rightfully his all along. Morning. The pair of blue eyes fluttered open, and a groan escaped Naruto's throat as he leaned forward with a hand over his head. Ah, master, it's good to see you're finally awake. Gnarl piped cheerfully before hopping onto the throne and then waving Jester over and pointed to his neck brace and splints. Nodding, Jester checked the blonde boy's wounds and grinned before giving a thumbs up to Gnarl. Excellent, it seems that Jester, or should I say Doc, is more than good enough to be Master's new primary physician, as your wounds have all healed nicely, sire. Gnarl said with a smirk as Jester widened his eyes before throwing his Jester hat to the side and stomping on it with an insane glee obvious in his eyes. Anyways, welcome to the Dark Tower, sire. Gnarl said before the three stooges entered. These are three of your minions, they will obey your every whim and command. They would steal for you, kill for you, bleed for you, even die for you if you wish it. Gnarl explained with a grin as the three stooges gave a rather silly and uncoordinated bow to the blonde's muffled. Now then, Giblet, Gubbin, Moldy, help master out of those clothes, they are not fit for the new master. Gnarl stated while pointing to the blonde. Jess, Doc, fetch the master some appropriate clothes. I think something in black leather armor would do well for an backpackin', Gnarl said, then mused, and Doc nodded his head before rushing off with an almost eerie glee in his eyes as he jumped into a blocked-off room. Gnarl then moved as Giblet, Gubbin, and Moldy went to work, first removing the blonde splints, bandages, and then the neck brace, allowing the blonde to breathe and realize his neck no longer hurt to move. Before he could appreciate this further, the blonde found the tiny gremlins moving about him, removing his tattered shirt, his old pants, then his sandals, leaving him in only his boxers. Then with a jump from whatever hole he'd been in, Jester jumped out with a bag in hand, he then tossed it to the three stooges. The three looked inside of it, then at one another with oohs from all of them, before grinning and jumping on Naruto, pulling the new clothes on instead. Master, evilness truly suits you. Gnarl said as he aided the three stooges in placing the blonde's new clothing and armor on. Now, let us go forth. The minion master called out as they finished with the blonde's lower waist, then moved on to his upper body. There are many nefarious deeds to be done. Gnarl called out as they finished with his upper body, and the minion master held a hit I-8 and then tied it to the blonde-haired youth's forehead. I can feel the land quaking with fear already, Gnarl said as he took a couple steps back from the blonde, leaving the boy's glowing blue eyes to gaze through shadows ominously. His clothes consisted of black tabi, a pair of black shinobi pants with wrappings over his right thigh, a tight black sleeveless shirt with a mask pulled up over his lower face, black leather bands over his biceps, a red sash tied around his waist to hang mostly over his back, with an old brown leather belt over that which had a skull buckle, and a red scarf around his neck and shoulder with a clip over it to hold it down. His armor was a little different, being made of black leather folds with red at the trim of each piece of armor. First was the knee-high pair of sandals greaves over his feet that split his toe like the tabi only had an open heel and toes, while over his stomach and waist was a cureback with 3 backets hanging down to cover his hips, thighs and groin. The pair of kuriket were placed over his arms with places for concealed senbon at the back of each forearm, a silver manacle over his left wrist had a glowing sphere centered into it, and last pauldrons were attached to his cureback under his scarf, the pauldrons, and matched the rest of his folded black leather armor with red trim. Last he wore a strange hit I-8 of the same design as the Nidaime Hokage's, which was placed over his face, but this one had a spike pointing up from the middle, then 2 from the sides pointing back much like the helmet the man who attacked him wore, only the spikes were shorter, with 3 spirals making a triangular symbol on the forehead. while a pair of long black ties fell behind his head to his back, leaving his spiky blonde locks to point up and his glowing blue eyes to gaze out through the shadows. As we are sure, Master, you are most likely a ninja, so we felt it would be better for a more ninja-like armor than what we would normally give you. That is our lightest armor without using magic, and without our smelters that is more or less impossible. Gnarl explained, and the blonde looked down at himself, seeing only a pair of glowing blue eyes and spiky blonde hair of his original self. I look different, Naruto mumbled, looking at his visage, then grinning under his mask as he chuckled. But I got to say, I really like this outfit. Naruto said before clenching his fists and looking at his Kurikid, and Gnarl grinned. We are happy to serve you, Master. But perhaps I should explain what is going on right now. I am Gnarl, the minion master and devoted servant of darkness, in case your eminence has forgot. Gnarl said while walking over to an archway and walked down a flight of stairs, while Naruto checked the senbon slots on his gauntlets and groaned, seeing none of the needles were present for a weapon. Master? Follow. Follow. One of the three stooges called out before grabbing Naruto's right arm and pulling him after Gnarl, as the tiny gray stood beside a strange pit with float rocks. This cavern is the spawning pit, sire, this is where new minions are born and live. Gnarl explained while waving his arms out, and Naruto took notice of the area besides the pit in the center. He saw numerous archways all over the room, 4 to be precise, one with a lava field, one with a desert area, one with a waterway, and the last had a swampy green look. Rocks of all types were around the main area, however, with all kinds of carvings in them and even some knocked down pillars. Beyond those was a door to the back of the area, which looked to go outside. Now that you are here, you can call forth minions from this minion gate. Gnarl explained while the three stooges then jumped up and into the minion gate. Use your mind, sire, the tower is linked to you, and you to it, just as we minions are. We are part of the tower, and as such we are also part of you, so call the minions with the power of your mind. Gnarl exclaimed, and Naruto twitched. Anyone in Konoha could tell you he didn't have much of a mind, but that didn't mean he wasn't going to try. Taking a deep breath, Naruto held his left arm towards the gate and then closed his eyes. Thinking of the three stooges, Naruto flexed his hand 3 times and heard a strange sound each time. Opening his eyes, he was slightly shocked, yet proud to see 3 minions now standing before him. Ah, look at them, they're so happy to have a master to serve again, they're all ready to loot and pillage at your command. It warms my black heart to see them so attentive and ready, Gnarl said, and Naruto raised a brow. Though he knew what an overlord was, he wasn't so sure he actually was one himself. Now then, since I will have to arrange for a new grade to replace Jester, and since we have no weapons since the betrayer stole them, I shall answer any questions you might have about this place, the minions, or even why you're the new overlord, Gnarl stated with a grin, and Naruto wondered if the little thing could read his thoughts somehow. Where exactly am I, Gnarl? Naruto decided it would be best to figure that out before anything else. It wouldn't do not to know where he was in case he needed to leave for home after all, though, Gnarl said this was his new home, and though it was a pretty rundown, he could admit it could be nicer than his own already rundown apartment with the help of these minions. Ah, this is the Dark Tower, Millard. Created by your ancient ancestor, the first of all the many overlords throughout history. Gnarl said proudly with a wide grin while Naruto's jaw dropped at that bombshell. He literally owned this entire place. He was a powerful sorcerer mileage. He created this tower, its heart, and even the minions within it all with his powerful magic. Gnarl said with a grin, and Naruto sat down, then looked around and openly gaped. To create all of this, his ancestor must have been some kind of a god. Alright, what is this heart you and that guy were talking about last night? Naruto then questioned, and Gnarl chuckled lightly before answering. The Tower Heart, Millard, it was created by your ancestor to allow us to teleport anywhere we have explored before, channel magic into the tower's main functions, and then access magic to the tower's current owner, and even chose the next rightful overlord from all of his descendants. However, when one isn't available, the heart will pick someone with a great evil in their soul to lead us until a true overlord is ready for his true destiny. Gnarl explained with a grin, and Naruto nodded his head slowly and then had an idea as he realized something. So it's, what was that word Shikamaru used? Sentiment, no sentient. Yeah. That's it. This heart is somehow sentient then, right? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl nodded his head to the blonde before frowning at him. Someone has been holding your education back, Lord. It was a statement, and for once Naruto nodded. If these things were technically family, it wouldn't feel right to lie to them after all, and they did want to help him, then retrieving the Tower Heart has more priority than ever before. Gnarl said suddenly, and Naruto looked at him with obvious confusion. Sire, the Tower Heart is linked to you just as it is to us. As one of the true overlords, you are able to call forth its full power. That traitorous fool who attacked you thought that he deserved the full power of the heart. Bloody heroes. Bah. Gnarl said, then spat out angrily. Right, what are you and the minions then, Gnarl? If you don't mind me asking at least, Naruto questioned, and Gnarl frowned for a few moments. Don't bother saying please or thank you to us, Lord, we are servants and soldiers. We live quite simply to do your bidding. Gnarl stated, and Naruto blinked, then nodded his head slowly. Good, now then. Minions were originally created from different creatures. Imps, goblins, dragons, and especially gremlins. The original master made us after a series of experimentations went awry. His attempt was to make a perfect balance of the species that he could control. Instead, he made all of us minions. Gnarl explained, and Naruto nodded his head slowly before taking a thoughtful expression. You mentioned a hero bloodline before, Gnarl. What is that exactly? Naruto questioned, wondering what kind of super cool super ability he got from his ancestor. Well, let me think now. Ah yes. The hero bloodline was the first to be seen on this world, Lord. It manifested itself as an unusual combat prowess, enhanced strength and speed, otherworldly endurance, a high regeneration factor, and of course, the ability to focus and use magic. Gnarl explained, leaving Naruto to realize his physical abilities were actually his bloodline, depressing the blonde as he never thought they were that cool. However, the original master destroyed this bloodline, even though he had it himself. He said it was to ensure only his descendants could ever use the Tower Heart. Even though he was correct, the Tower Heart found a way to transfer the bloodline to normal people when it needed a new overlord. Gnarl explained, and Naruto nodded his head slowly, then began to think some more on what was next. How are you so sure I'm supposed to be an overlord, Gnarl? I thought you said the Tower Heart was missing. Naruto questioned, then stated, and Gnarl rolled his eyes before looking at Naruto flatly. Simple, Lord. The tower itself has carried a small amount of charge even without the heart. I've been watching for a new overlord for a long time. But every time we found one, it seemed as if the traitor found him first. We are connected to the tower, as is the heart, and the heart wants a new master as badly as we do, so it sought you out, Lord. Gnarl explained, and Naruto raised a brow in confusion. Your eyes don't glow like that because of your bloodline, sire, it's the mark of a true overlord. Gnarl stated, and Naruto nodded his head slowly, then looked at the gem on his left wrist. What exactly is this thing then, Gnarl? The blonde questioned while tapping the object, and Gnarl grinned towards the blonde. First, it's a link to the Tower Heart, allowing us to transport you back to the tower, should you come close to death. Secondly, Lord, in the past, your ancestor found that creating life from nothing was impossible. While he could create the bodies of the minions, there was no true way to create the life force necessary to give them life. Gnarl started, and Naruto had a feeling he knew where this was going. In short, Lord, that object absorbs the life force of those slain by you or your minions, then transports it to the tower, allowing you to call forth more minions to your aid. Gnarl said then with a wide grin, and Naruto shuddered. You mean it steals souls? Naruto demanded with wide eyes, and Gnarl shook his head with a frown. No, sire. It merely transfers the spark of life within all living creatures to a new minion. It's not like a dead creature needs it, so your ancestor created it for that purpose. He figured that if a minion didn't use it, then it was basically going to waste, and he hated wasting anything. He left the soul alone, as it seems even he had some amount of an aversion to trying to taint the immortal soul. Gnarl explained, and Naruto let out a sigh of relief. That wasn't so bad, and Gnarl did make a point about it being wasted. Alright, that's a lot to take in. What did that man, that betrayer as you called him, do to the tower? I mean, why is it all so smashed up if you guys were so powerful? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl looked around before sighing softly. That, sire, is the direct result of the traitor I told you about. He was a prideful man, always believing himself to be better than others. That led to him killing your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, and then he killed his own mistress, and finally your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother in an attempt to gain full control of the Tower Heart. Gnarl explained, and Naruto clenched his fists, eyes glowing brightly with hate. After that, the Tower Heart knew it couldn't allow him to continue on. It took the power to control minions and his magic away from him before casting him out of the Dark Tower. He swore that he would regain control of the tower at any and all costs. Gnarl explained, then rubbed his face with one claw. At that time, the man joined with a succubus for revenge on us in the tower. He unleashed the strongest beasts of hell into the world to run rampant. I believe they are known as Biju to your own people, sire. Gnarl explained, and Naruto was, to say the least, shocked that the man who had tried to murder him was also the one who unleashed the Biju onto the world. What he didn't know was that your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather had already been born. By this time, your ninja world was already starting to form, with the new bloodlines being born from the demons he unleashed onto the world. At the same time, magic was altered itself. Somehow humans gained an internal supply called chakra and learned how to wield it with hand seals instead of will or through use of mana. Gnarl explained, then shuddered to himself. We survived all of this, sire, by placing an illusion around the tower. No one has or ever will notice it unless they have been here before. Gnarl then explained, explaining why no one had noticed the tower at the very least. This didn't stop the traitor, however. He went across the land slaying hundreds, thousands, and slowly he became more and more corrupted. But without the tower heart it wasn't making him any stronger, so he finally decided that the only way to gain the full power of the tower once more was to destroy any and all who tried to take control of it. Gnarl said, then gnashed his teeth together in rage. He set out and destroyed any and all who came near the tower, looting it afterwards and taking away more and more of our power until finally the last who was in line to be the Overlord was killed. She was a woman, the first female to ever be declared the next Overlord. And yet she too was killed by our traitorous former master, Gnarl explained, then had a look on his face as he looked to Naruto. And since you are to be Overlord next, that would make her. Gnarl left this hanging, but Naruto picked it up easily, his eyes glowing brighter than ever as streams of blue steam seemed to flow out from his helmet. She was my mother, and he killed her, and possibly even my father. With that and a mighty roar, Naruto slammed a fist into the ground, breaking the stone as he shook with barely suppressed rage. Master? One of the three stooges questioned, and Naruto looked at him from the corner of his eye before turning back to Gnarl. That idiot, he wants evil, I'll give him evil, I'll fight darkness with darkness, Gnarl. Show me, teach me to be stronger than him, train me to be better than him, help me grow more powerful than he ever was, so that I can rip his hecking worm-infested heart out of his cold lifeless corpse, then let those three idiots bathe in his hecking blood. Naruto roared out, the three stooges starting to jump with glee at the very idea of bathing in blood, while Gnarl grinned widely to Naruto. And what else do you want, master? We will do as you ask regardless, but would that truly be all that you desire, Lord? Revenge, well, it is a positively corrupt goal. In the long term of things it won't really help you or us if you don't have something to do afterwards. Gnarl questioned, then pointed out, and Naruto sat back for a moment, trying to think of what to say to the tiny old minion, looking at Gnarl, then to the swirling portal of mystical energy in the center of the room. Naruto knew what he wanted, and his eyes burned blue fire. Standing up proud and tall, the dark visage of the Overlord seemed to loom over Gnarl once more and made him give an excited shudder. I will rebuild this tower, my ancestors' home, I shall reclaim all that was taken from it by that traitor, I shall reign over this land as my ancestors did, long ago, Naruto stated darkly, and the three stooges cheered behind him, while Gnarl merely grinned, an evil glint in his eyes. I will no longer take any abuse from Konoha, or anyone for that matter. I shall have my minions serve me well, together, we shall travel the world, gain power and destroy those who would dare oppose us. Naruto said while clenching a fist as his hatred and rage continued to burn in his heart. In short, Gnarl, I shall become what the village has feared most, Naruto said darkly while Doc ran into the room and watched as Naruto raised a fist into the air, eyes still glowing as though they were blue flames. I shall become the true Overlord, a bastion of evil and darkness the likes of which none has ever known. He screamed to the heavens above, while the three stooges clapped and cheered, one seeming to cry tears of joy, while Doc then flipped down and beside Naruto at that point and bowed to him. All hail, the new Overlord. He exclaimed loudly as Naruto lowered his arm, and Gnarl grinned a crooked grin, while looking at his new master proudly. Yes, all hail the Overlord indeed. Arc Tower. Gnarl and Naruto sat in the throne room, while the three stooges went around moving what little of the rubble around the room that they could out of the way. We really need a crane, sire, and some shovels, picks, axes, and a couple wheelbarrows, and any other digging or repair tools might also be nice, at least if you ever want to think straight in this lifetime, Gnarl said, while watching the minions, and Naruto looked at him with a raised eyebrow. What does that mean, Gnarl? How would the tower's state of disrepair have any kind of effect on me? The blonde questioned, and the tiny old minion master sighed to himself. As I've said several times before, master, you and the tower are bonded to one another, just as the minions are to you and it. However, due to the nature of your bond with the tower, you are more heavily affected by its current state. Or, in layman's terms, master, so long as the tower is in shambles, so are you, in both body and mind, Gnarl explained, and Naruto felt his jaw drop before he twitched and crossed his arms. Priority 1, fix this darn place so I can think straight. What affects what about me, Gnarl? Naruto said, then questioned while Gnarl stretched. The minion caches that we used to have allow you to split your concentration to multiple areas, thus also allowing you to control more minions for each cache you have. So in other words, they would add 5 minions to your horde while allowing you to concentrate on 2 different areas at once. Gnarl explained, and Naruto nodded his head slowly and then motioned for the old minion master to continue. The tower heart affects focus, both of magic and your ability to focus your thoughts. Without it, you lose your train of thought fairly easily, sire, and won't be able to focus your magical energy either. Gnarl explained animatedly once more, and Naruto leaned back, wondering why his ancestor bonded them to this place so literally. Next is the health columns. They affect the amount of stamina and how strong your regeneration factor are. By gaining more, sire, the tower will be able to add to your stamina, increasing your overall health till you're better than a prime racehorse. Gnarl explained while Naruto tried his hardest to concentrate, making a top priority to get that darn tower heart back if he had to. Next is the mana stores. They increase the tower's ability to supply you with mana, or chakra, as you ninja seem to call it. It will also give you greater control of what amount you already have. They also affect your IQ, the more you have, the smarter you become. Gnarl explained, then looked around as the three stooges continued trying to move things around. Next, the forge. It is directly linked to your creativity, Lord. The more creative you are, the more items we will be able to forge for you. The smelters in the forge area merely affect your ability to think diversely, thus giving your creativity a slight boost. The arena over that way affects combat experience. Once it's repaired and reopened, you will retain and remember your combat knowledge more easily. Gnarl explained, pointing to the areas that housed what he was talking about before taking a deep breath while the three stooges and Doc were now trying to move an old torch. The private quarters affect several aspects of your lordship's normal personality and traits. Primarily, however, it supports your memory. Once repaired, you will be able to recall most anything you've learned instantly. It also affects your bananapachual urges, as that area, a certain room in particular, was the one used by the former overlords to relieve their tension. Last, it was also the torture room, affecting your darker nature to some small degree, sire. Basically because that area has been damaged so much your mind is near completely in shambles. Gnarl explained while Doc ran over to Giblet and helped him up from where he fell off of the throne. Last, sire, is the tower's main spells. They have clawbacks which all have different effects when they are used, sire. First are of course destruction spells, then shield spells, domination spells, and last is minion spells. However, there are a few more. Those were just the ones we allowed the betrayer to use. The rest are restoration spells, illusion spells, and alteration spells. The spells don't affect you like the rest of the tower does. But they do allow you more powers without the use of those bloody hand seals. Allowing you more powerful effects as well, master. Truly, you wouldn't want to waste your power on those ninjas' weak little jutsu when you could rain fiery death down with one of the tower's powerful spells. Gnarl boasted with an evil grin, while Naruto nodded slowly before standing up and then stretching. I'm going to go look for the tower heart, Gnarl. Any idea where it might be? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl took a thoughtful expression while stroking his beard. The tower heart couldn't have been taken any more than a few miles away from the tower, sire. If it was, it might break, and that fool wouldn't dare risk destroying his only chance to reclaim the power of the Overlord, Gnarl explained, and Naruto nodded before looking to the three stooges as Gibbon and Moldy were trying to attack Doc. You three, he stated, and they all stopped, turning around quickly to salute him. We're going out to find the tower heart, he stated before turning and walking towards the spawning pit, the three stooges and Gnarl following after him. Gnarl, are you sure you should be coming? Naruto questioned as they entered the spawning pit, heading towards the door at the other end of the chamber. It doesn't really matter, sire. I have to come and guide you through the basics of controlling the minions at the least. And I won't be able to speak to you outside of the tower until you retrieve the tower heart. Gnarl explained, and Naruto frowned while they exited the tower into a snowy field. Cold, dark, barren, and lifeless. I like this place. Gnarl said with a very wide grin before the group trudged through the snow. Gnarl, what do you know about the sector of Konoha that's mostly hidden under a genjutsu? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl took a thoughtful expression. The guild halls, sire? He questioned, and Naruto merely nodded. They were around when this village was first created. However, once the shinobi of the village stopped specializing in singular fields, the Hokage of the time saw no real need for this area anymore. The illusion, or genjutsu as you and other nin call it, was my work, so that no one would check this area out. I figured that once we had a new overlord, we could also use a place for any servants or slaves that your lordship may acquire in the future. Gnarl explained before laughing evilly, and Naruto nodded his head slowly, then looked around and noticed some sheep. Sheep? Naruto questioned and saw Gnarl snarl in hate. Bleh. Worthless bleeding creatures. All they do all day is frolic about the fields, eat, nonsense, and drink. Lazy good-for-nothing vermin if you ask me. Gnarl raged, and Naruto frowned. Gnarl did have some amount of a point. These sheep were little more than annoying. Let's put them out of our misery. What do you say, Gnarl? Naruto offered, and a feral grin came to Gnarl's face. Oh yes, master. Please do. He said happily, and Naruto held a hand towards the sheep. Concentrate, master. If you want the minions to attack a single target, picture the target in your mind, then the minions attacking it. Gnarl explained, and Naruto flexed his hand 3 times. The three stooges moved quickly with their clubs and jumped onto the sheep, one of the bashing its headed. But master. Gnarl exclaimed with a grin, while a minion held its hands over the sheep's body, then ran to Naruto. For you. It said with a bow while holding a yellow sphere up. Ooh. That's brown life force, sire. It can be used to summon more of your browns. Naruto explained with a grin, and Naruto placed his left hand onto the sphere and watched as it was pulled into the sphere on his wrist. Wait, browns. Are there more minion types then, Naruto questioned, and the aging minion master nodded his head. Indeed. For the moment we only have browns, however. Browns are your main warriors, sire. They can take more damage and deal more physical attack than any of the other minions. They are also some of the most clever of all the minions, being more directly related to gremlins. They can tear just about anything apart. Naruto said, then laughed to himself while Naruto nodded his head slowly. And you are? He questioned, and Naruto grinned. I'm a gray. Grays are some of the most rare of all the minions, sire. We are only born every so often with rare gray life force. A gray is the most intelligent of all the other minion types. We're also invincible to any form attack, though we can still be greatly wounded. Unfortunately, we have no real attack to call our own. Doc is also a gray, and soon I'll have a new jester as well. Naruto said simply, and Naruto nodded his head slowly before walking off and shooting the minions at another sheep. As before, they killed it and brought the blonde some more of the brown life force. Excellent, master, now try and sweep your minions to get that one beyond the bridge of branches. Naruto said, and Naruto looked to him, making the old minion master give him a sheepish look. Right, I should explain how first. When you wish to make your minions follow a complicated path, master, it is best to sweep them through it. Using your connection to the minions, guide them by controlling their will with your own. Naruto stated, and Naruto looked at the minions, then held out his left hand once more, concentrating on the three stooges. He then visualized them moving over the bridge to the sheep. Opening his eyes, the blonde watched in some amount of awe as the minions followed that same path, soon jumping on top of the sheep and killing it. One heading back with the life force while the other two started to destroy a couple of old pots. Minions are quite clever creatures, sire. Clever enough to equip any useful items in the area, as well as some useless ones, Naruto explained, then admitted with a shrug of his shoulders as the two minions came back, one wearing a raggedy shirt, the other with a small dagger in hand. I see what you mean, Naruto murmured, then turned and walked towards the lost sector with the minions in tow behind him. Looking forward, he saw that the lost sector was simply a long street with buildings to either side, a second street to his left, and a third to his right completing the sector, as it was obviously significantly smaller than even the Uchiha residence. So how many minions will I be able to control? Naruto questioned, and Naruto grinned towards his master. 5 at first, master, but with every minion cache you reclaim, you'll be able to split your concentration further between more, allowing your eminence's keen mind to control even more minions. Naruto explained as they entered the city limits, a strange hole opening from the ground. This is a minion gate, sire. From here you can call more minions to your side. Naruto said with a grin, and Naruto nodded, holding his left hand out. He flexed it twice, and 2 minions jumped out grinning. Gobi. One exclaimed happily before hugging the other. Grubber missed you. Grubber called out while Gobi pushed Grubber off of himself and then saluted to Naruto with a wide grin. Master. It's an honor to serve. Gobi called out, and Naruto looked to Naruto. Why do they have names? He questioned, and Naruto snickered. The original master created only 5 of each of the many minion clans. So in effect only those 5 are actually capable of any intelligent thought. Well, the rest draw from your mind, Lord. Or if you want it in more mediocre simple terms, there is only 5 of each color, while the rest are basically brainless idiots who follow your every order, sire. Naruto stated with a smile, and Naruto nodded his head slowly, halfway deciding he only wanted to summon 5 of each color to make sure he didn't get the brainless ones, but if they died, he'd kind of miss having competent workers at the tower. Alright then. Gobi, Grubber, Gubbin, Giblet, Moldy. Naruto stated, and the Browns all quickly stood at immediate attention. Throwing his arm towards a building at his side, Naruto gave a mental order to attack, and with a cry out for the Overlord. The 5 Browns jumped inside, trashing the place faster than the blonde-haired youth could blink an eye. As you can see, Lord. Minions are also able to easily destroy buildings in a matter of minutes or seconds. This is due to our gremlin heritage, I believe, as they were known to be quite the precarious little devils. Then again, minions love breaking things, almost as much as they enjoy killing them. Naruto explained, then gave an evil laugh as the 5 Browns came out of the building, one holding a bag, one with a helmet on his head, one with a slightly longer sword, and one with gloves on. For you. The one with the bag said while giving it to Naruto, which the blonde opened and found a small pile of gold within. Holy, Naruto murmured and looked to Naruto with wide eyes. As you can also see, Lord. Minions will collect items for you that they believe to be useful for your ambition. Gold, health potions, mana potions, regeneration potions, and all other manner of items will be brought directly to you even under pain of death if you should need them. Naruto replied, and Naruto got a sudden idea. Naruto, well, we're looking for the tower heart, why don't we also try and collect some things to repair the tower? Naruto questioned with a slight grin on his face, and Naruto stroked his goatee before chuckling madly. Yes, that sounds perfect, Lord. Give the order and the minions will first find something to pull to the tower, or even a tower gate, once we manage to find the tower heart. Then they will collect any and all useful or valuable items in the area and place them on whatever they find to carry it. Gnarl explained, and Naruto looked around for something to use to pull the items back to the tower. He spotted an old platform with handles on it and instantly pointed his hand towards it, the 5 Browns moving to bring it over and then placing it on the center of the street. The Browns then rushed back into the building they had ransacked. The sounds of stuff breaking and crashing could be heard before they came out carrying books and some tools, which they put onto the pedestal. Naruto then pointed to another building, and as before with crashing and breaking the minions came out, dressed in more clothes this time, they put some gold, a shovel and some more books down on the pedestal. If you'll excuse me, Lord. I'll make certain those fools don't bring out multiple copies of the same books. But that Gnarl waddled over to the pedestal and began to look at each book before throwing one into the building it came from. Looking forward, 2 of the Browns came and started pulling the straw pedestal further down the road, with Naruto following at a sedate pace. He could really get used to this, watching as the minions brought out all manner of objects, tools, gold, and even weaponry. Naruto was surprised when they produced what looked like torture equipment from a rather average-looking house. BDSM stuff. Ha ha ha. Gubbin laughed out with Moldy and Giblet laughing as well before jumping into another building with Gobi and Grubber, ransacking the home and running out with more items. What's BDSM mean, Gnarl? Naruto asked a tiny aging minion master and then saw him grin stupidly before shaking his head and giving a light chuckle. I'll explain when you're older, master. You don't really need to learn about that until you find a mistress, or maybe some servants, or even a couple slaves or prisoners, Gnarl said, then added with a toothy grin, making the blonde Overlord blink before raising a brow in confusion, while the 5 Browns continued to ransack the lost sector until they came to the last 4 buildings. On the first street. These 4 buildings are known as the main guild halls, sire. Gnarl explained, and Naruto frowned to himself, wishing he'd paid more attention to Iruka when he'd explained about the lost sector, now that he practically owned it. What hall is for what then? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl grinned widely. The first building to your immediate left was once the Thieves Guild. They were the ninja branch who went on retrieval and espionage missions for the village until their training was integrated into the main shinobi forces. Your immediate right is the Backbackens Guild, sire, known to many as the Dark Brotherhood. They were obviously the Backbackens among the ninja ranks who took those types of jobs for the Hokage. Ironically, they were best known for their kenjutsu and genjutsu unlike the others. Gnarl explained, and Naruto looked first to his left, seeing a building with a purple banner, which was the Thieves Guild, then to his right seeing one with a black banner, the Backbackens Guild. The center right is the Fighters Guild Lord, where taijutsu experts were known to congregate and fully expand their bacchanals of techniques to become masters of their own personal styles. To the center left is the Sager Mage Guild, where warriors of ninjutsu practiced their art while also storing the scrolls that held their most powerful ninjutsu techniques. Gnarl said, and Naruto looked to the Fighters Guild, seeing a red banner, while the Mage Sage Guild had a blue banner. So if you guys were to ransack each building, you could probably find some powerful scrolls and training equipment. Naruto questioned, and Gnarl nodded his head. And if we leave them alone, you could save those scrolls for future servants to learn from, unless you don't want ninja under your command, Gnarl said, then offered, and Naruto frowned to himself. That didn't sound too bad either. What if I were to take the most powerful scrolls, but leave lesser more basic scrolls and the buildings intact? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl actually had to think on that one for a few moments. Take the greatest power so that they cannot overpower yourself, Millard. Gnarl questioned, and Naruto nodded his head, gaining an evil laugh from Gnarl. I do believe you're starting to get the hang of this, sire. I shall start work as soon as we recover the Tower Heart. Gnarl stated, and Naruto looked at him strangely. Without the Tower Heart, Lord, I won't be able to fully control a platoon of minions to gather the scrolls you wish to have while I decide what should and should not stay. Gnarl explained, and Naruto made an O with his mouth before nodding, and they turned down the next street. Why is it so hard to find this Tower Heart, Gnarl? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl grunted lightly to himself. The betrayer knew what he was doing, master. He intentionally hid it somewhere no one would go looking for it, Gnarl stated, and Naruto looked around the buildings while the minions continued to collect things for the tower. I must admit, once we have the tower repaired, I might just have the minions begin to repair the sector, Gnarl then mused, and Naruto looked at him strangely. Purely for your use, of course, Lord. It won't do for your servants to think that you're unable to maintain a powerful image, which includes the state of your lands. Gnarl explained quickly, and Naruto met in thought while following after the minions. Master. Gobi finded some things. One of the minions, Grubber if he was right, called out while hopping up and down. Really? Where? Naruto demanded, and Grubber pulled him by one arm, Gnarl grumbling about the little fools disrespecting the master under his breath as they pulled him to an old dark alley. Something covered in dirt and grime was on the ground. When Gobi jumped on dirt, he hit his head and hurt himself. Grubber said with a laugh, and Gnarl frowned before walking over to the pile of dirt and then wiped some off and grinned, seeing a familiar glowing sphere beneath it. "We've found the tower heart, master," Gnarl exclaimed, then ordered the 5 minions to move and pick it up, pulling it out of the dirt to reveal the back of heart as it glowed and shone brightly. Move it. Don't dilly-dally. Moldy, stop trying to ride on that. Gubbin, put your back into it. Giblet, I see you pretending to move it with only one claw. Grubber, take your fair share, you worthless sack of guts and puss. Gnarl snarled at the minions as they carried the large sphere, then walked over to a strange platform in the ground and set it down. As they dropped it, one of the minions' feet got stuck under it, and the other 4 hurried over to him and pulled him out. As soon as they got out of the way, the object glowed bright red, energy traveling down into the strange platform, and soon the tower heart had completely vanished from sight. What exactly is that thing, Gnarl? The blonde questioned, and Gnarl blinked. Oh, that, sire, is what is known as a waypoint gate. It works as a direct link to the tower. And with the tower heart in our possession once more, we can also activate it and any of the other waypoint gates around the world for a more easy form of travel. Gnarl explained, and Naruto made an O with his mouth while following the group onto the gate and felt as he was suddenly pulled through his stomach and appeared back in the throne room of the Dark Tower. Turning around, Naruto watched as the tower heart fell into the pool at the end of the room and suddenly felt his eyes widen before moving back to sit down in the throne. Ah, it's taking effect, master. It's repairing some of the damage done to the tower, and by proxy your own mind, Gnarl explained, then looked behind the throne and grinned. Ooh. Look, it even gave you a gift, sire. He called out, and Naruto turned to look behind the throne and saw a strange dark gray pedestal with yellow gems in it and the look of a wicked smile like a minion's face. That is a minion cache, master. With them you will gain the ability to split your concentration and have even more minions under your control at any given time. Gnarl explained, then looked around and spotted something around the room. Oh. Look, master, it's even retained one of its spells. He called out while pointing to a gargoyle-like statue with a long tongue, a ball of flame spitting forward from it. The fireball spell, I should have known he'd survive, he's such a robust fellow after all. Gnarl mused to himself, then looked to the 5 browns in the room. Alright, you 5, go back and bring the items you collected for the master. Gnarl yelled, and the 5 browns all saluted before jumping to the water and vanishing in a shower of sparks. While Gnarl ordered the minions around, Naruto felt his eyes grow heavy. They then closed and his head lolled over to one side as he fell into a deep sleep. Things began to make more sense to him, however. He could focus more clearly and he could also concentrate better, allowing him some insight he wouldn't have had before. 1. He would never become Hokage, mostly because the council hated him, but also because the entire village practically hated him, and in truth, so the heck what? He was going to be greater than any hecking Hokage was. He was to be the new overlord of this world. So they could heck the darn Hokage Milanli for all he cared. 2. Sakura didn't want anything to do with him. Primarily because of the fact he's always picked her up when Sasuke would shoot her down. Or, in other words, he'd made Sakura think she was a princess with all his worship of her, and she figured Sasuke was her prince, giving her a big head and somewhat warped ideals. In truth, if he didn't pick up her spirits anymore, the girl was likely to become depressed, as even if she wouldn't admit it, she needed him to help her feel good about herself. He'd probably start that. Allow her to fall into depression and see what became of her before taking any other type of action towards her. 3. The villagers would kill him if they had the chance. Plain and hecking simple, they wanted him dead by any means necessary. He decided to screw that nonsense. He had an army of ready warriors at his beck and call now. If those villagers so much as stepped a toe out of line, he was going to beat the ever-loving nonsense out of them before he would let them come at him with pitchforks and torches again. 4. His mother had at some point in the past lived in Konoha, but the Sandaime had lied to him about not knowing her, or at least who she was. Obviously, if she were like him in any way, he would have met her at some point, more than likely during a prank. If not, there was also the fact that the hospital had records of births to look at, and Naruto knew none of those were damaged in the Kyuubi attack. One thing Naruto hated above all else was liars. Even evil people didn't really lie, after all they were dishonest, and you had to expect them to be dishonest. Honestly, it was the honest ones you have to look out for, as you never know when they'll do something incredibly stupid. Case in point, the supposed hero who became a megalomaniacal overlord centuries ago, who he was really going to kill for his mother's death. 5. This tower needed to be rebuilt if he was to have any inkling of killing that man who murdered his mother. No questions asked. Plain and simple, this place had to be in proper working order once more, even if he had to tear Konoha apart to do it. Finally, He realized that the teachers at his school were trying to stunt his growth as a ninja. And that if he wanted any real chance to truly become a powerful warrior, he'd need some more time, maybe even several more years to train with the scrolls that Gnarl would eventually collect from the guilds. In short, Naruto realized that Konoha had screwed him over royally, and that as the Overlord, he had some amount of a way to fight back against them. Silently resting, the blonde-haired youth began to plot. Dreaming of what he would do in the future to correct the mistakes of ever loving this accursed village, a cruel smile making its way to his lips beneath his mask even as he did. Dark Tower. Naruto slowly opened his eyes to see that the throne room looked immensely better than it had. The rubble had been moved some, with wood around the sides to open what looked like the arena pathway, while Giblet now had an old blast mask, like a blacksmith or welder, over his face with yellow lenses. "Ah master, so nice to see you awake. Sorry about the mess, but I've had the Browns fixing up the place. I had to teach them how to chop wood when we needed a way to keep the rubble somewhere, and then I had to show them what to do with hammers and nails. All in all however, if we'd had a crane we might have opened another room or two beyond the arena." Gnarl explained with a wide grin, while Naruto placed a hand onto his head and leaned back into his throne, the revelations from the day before still running through his head. "Why does it feel like someone's dancing on my brain?" Naruto questioned while Grubber fell from a hole in the wall and looked around with a dazed expression. Gobi was now dressed in soldier garb, complete with a silver helmet over his head and a spear. He stood before the arena and shook his head at Grubber's expense. "That would be the result of your entire life coming completely into focus, Millard. As well as the mental backlash from having the arena opened and thus all your combat experience brought to the surface in one fell swoop." Gnarl explained while Naruto merely nodded while rubbing his head with a frown. "Can I expect this to happen every time they open up a new room?" Naruto asked while looking at Gnarl, and the tiny minion master shook his head. "Heavens no lord. It was merely the tower being so run down that has caused Excellency's headache. From now on I expect that you will feel a slight tickle instead," Gnarl explained, and Naruto hummed in thought before standing up and placing a finger on his chin. "You were right about one thing Gnarl, I am thinking a lot more clearly now," he stated, and Gnarl nodded his head with a grin. "Excellent lord, then what is it you wish to do next?" Gnarl questioned while rubbing his hands together, and Naruto hummed in thought before narrowing his eyes and walking over to look out a window towards Konoha. "Unfortunately Gnarl, I should get back to Konoha, at least before someone notices I'm actually gone and calls for my head," Naruto mused, and Gnarl frowned. "If you wish it lord, I could send some minions to accompany you. I had the Browns slaughter all the sheep last night, so I would have a few more to rebuild the tower with," Gnarl offered then explained, and Naruto shook his head. "Sorry Gnarl, but the Browns would be useless to me in a ninja village," the blonde said simply before walking off and leaving Gnarl to turn and sigh, seeing the minions drop something heavy on their feet. "Master, if you really must go then may I at least set a waypoint gate at your home with the tower heart? That way you can come and go as you please without raising any suspicion," Gnarl questioned then added and Naruto stopped and then turned to the minion master with a raised brow. "You can't do that?" he questioned with genuine confusion, and Gnarl nodded his head with a grin. "Simply stand before this water and visualize your home. Once that is done you can choose to go there or to the lost sector as you call it. If you wish to set up waypoint gates at other places simply speak with me and I'll see what I can do," Gnarl explained and Naruto blinked before walking over to the pool of water and closing his eyes, visualizing his apartment in his mind. He then felt a strange sensation as he was suddenly whisked away, appearing on another waypoint gate, which bore the symbol that was etched onto his strange Hitai 8. Looking around, he sighed in relief that the gate was in his closet. Glad for that Naruto stepped off of the gate, then closed his closet door and looked around. Stretching the blonde then removed his face guard Hitai 8 and put it on his bedside table. Stopping he then opened a drawer and dropped it into that instead, so no one would notice it, while he then wondered if he should leave his armor or not. On one hand, the armor did look much more imposing than what his normal clothes looked like. And bright orange hurt his eyes so bad now he didn't think he'd be able to stand wearing it ever again. On the other hand however, if he ever captured someone in or from Konoha wearing his armor, they would know who he was instantly. While if he saved it for later they wouldn't know where they were if he took them to the tower, who he was due to the armor concealing his identity Melanie, and last, he could scare them more easily with it at that kind of moment. "I'll wear the pants, shirt, scarf, sash, belt, and find a different pair of sandals," Naruto finally decided as he began pulling his armor off, then looked around and went to his closet. Pulling a chest out of there he opened it up and placed his armor into it, over some other stuff he had been saving for when he finally made Genin. Nodding the blonde closed the chest, then moved it into his closet, but grabbed a pair of black shinobi sandals from inside, before he closed the door and smirked. Pulling the sandals on, he walked into his bathroom and looked at himself in the full-body mirror, seeing the black ninja sandals, black shinobi pants, a red sash around his waist with his brown leather belt over it, a skin-tight sleeveless black shirt with a face mask rolled down to his throat, black bands over his biceps, and a red scarf wrapped around his throat with a back brooch hanging from it. Not as threatening, but overall an improvement, Naruto said with a smirk while crossing his arms. Looking around, he then walked over to his bathroom to look at himself. Noting his eyes, he frowned slightly before shrugging it off and deciding he'd do something about that later, however stood still when he felt a strange tickle at the back of his mind and briefly wondered what was going on. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, is this thing on? Master? Can you hear me? Gnarl's voice seemed to come from all around and made Naruto look all around himself before crossing his arms and then laying on his bed. What is it, Gnarl? Naruto questioned aloud and heard Gnarl chuckle. Greetings, master. As I said, I can speak with you now thanks to the tower heart. Gnarl explained and Naruto raised a brow. He called to tell him that. Also, I can hear your thoughts, sire, so it might be a smart idea to think when you wish to talk to me, unless you want people to think you're completely mad. Gnarl offered and Naruto twitched before nodding his head in agreement. So what did you need to tell me, Gnarl? Naruto questioned and heard a chuckle from Gnarl. First of all, congratulations are in order, sire. I was able to raise 3 more Greys from the Grey Hive. They are the thinkers of your minions, brilliant tacticians that cannot be killed. They cannot attack unfortunately, but with their help, I'm sure you'll find a use for the extra 2. Their original 5 names are Gnarl, Jester, Doc, Shin, and Espio. Sadly, however, 5 is the limit for the amount of Greys you can ever have at any moment in time. Gnarl explained and Naruto took a thoughtful expression, thinking of what he should do with the extra Greys. Could one be a spy? Naruto questioned and heard a hum from Gnarl. Never thought of that, but that could work for one of them, Lord. They are very intelligent, not so much as to question your lordship, but definitely much more intelligent than any brown, white, green, red, or blue, sire, and maybe the other one can oversee the reconstruction search of the lost sector in my stead, while also seeking out powerful scrolls and equipment for your lordship, of course. Gnarl offered with Naruto mentally agreeing with the aging minion master. Speaking of equipment, why don't I have any beyond my armor, Gnarl? The blonde questioned while noting his kunai case was gone and he hadn't had any senbon for his gauntlets either. The kunai you had with you were not worthy of your lordship's use, sadly. We have no ninja weapons of our own at the moment, and the betrayer stole the rest of the weapons and armor from our armory, as well as our smelters. That armor you have was a leftover from nearly 3 centuries ago, belonging to the Overlord before the betrayer if I'm not mistaken. Gnarl explained and Naruto grimaced, though appreciated that it was a distant grandfather's armor, he kind of wanted his own. Alright, any of the minions find any decent weapons in the lost sector then? Naruto questioned and Gnarl hummed in thought. Unfortunately, no, sire. Any weapons in the lost sector were all far too old and under disrepair for your lordship's use. When we finally find one of our lost smelters, however, we'll be able to create some powerful weapons for you and upgrade your armor. Gnarl offered with an evil chuckle at the end, and Naruto cupped his chin, then smirked as an idea came to him. Gnarl, have that Grey you named Shin look for some instructions on wielding a blade of some kind at the Backbacken's guild. Have Espio study in the Thieves Guild so he can become a good spy. Naruto stated and heard an evil laugh from Gnarl. Ah, master, you're really starting to pick up on this quickly, I see, Gnarl said, and Naruto smirked as he felt the tickle at the back of his head was still there but couldn't hear anything, so shrugged it off and leaned back into a pillow with a sigh. However, as soon as it did, at least 3 Anbu suddenly appeared before the boy, who wondered if perhaps they had some way of tracking the tower heart signal to him. Finally, Lord Hokage wishes to speak with you. Now. One of the Anbu growled out with obvious irritation, though from the finally Naruto suspected they had been sent out to find him some time ago. Ah, the joys of owning a tower only he and an army of his servants could see. Noting how tense the Anbu seemed, Naruto held up his wrists while slipping off his bed. One of the men placing a hand on his shoulder before they all vanished in a swirl of leaves. Hokage Tower. Naruto had one eye opened as he saw the Hokage sitting behind his desk and groaning, rubbing his temples, and looking like someone had ruined his life. Noting all the paperwork on the man's desk, it didn't take a genius to find out why that was. Ugh, I don't envy any human with so much paperwork, that's another perk of evil, sire, no bloody paperwork. Gnarl said and Naruto smirked slightly. Yes, being evil was becoming more and more appealing by the second. Hey Gigi, what's up? Naruto questioned, pretending to be the same little fool he was only a day or 2 ago. The old man blinked at this, then looked up at Naruto and gave a brief sigh of relief seeing him. Ah, Naruto, Anbu, you may return to your regular duties. The Hokage ordered and the Anbu were gone before Naruto could think to bat an eyelash. Someone obviously didn't get any sleep last night, Naruto thought to himself while walking forward and sitting down in a chair before the Sandaime. What did you need me for, Jiji? Naruto questioned with a smile while a darker part of his mind wanted to get the hell out of there and plot the old man's death for lying to him about his mother. I could do that for you, sire, Narl offered, and Naruto yawned. But then it's not as fulfilling since I haven't added my own personal flair to it, Narl. Naruto thought, and Narl agreed with the blonde, while Sarutobi gave the boy a slightly annoyed yet playful look. You've had me worried, Naruto. I've had that squad looking for you all night. Sarutobi said, and Naruto shrugged his shoulders in reply. I got lost in the sewers, Jiji, found what looked like someone's home from a long time ago, and decided to stay the night. Found some really cool clothes as well. Naruto explained, light, and heard Nar laughing his back off because of the fact Naruto had just lied to the village leader and would most likely get away with it. Oh, well, I should probably have some shinobi go and check the place out, Naruto. Just to make sure you didn't stumble onto a bandit's nest, as it were. The Hokage offered, and Naruto frowned inwardly, keeping a smile on nonetheless as she shook his head to the old man. Nah. If you do that, then I won't be able to hide my stuff there, so no one will steal it. Naruto said with an inward smirk, and unfortunately, he heard as Gnarl suddenly growled low in his throat. Gobi. Grubber. Giblet. I want you all to head to Master's home and bring his belongings to the tower. I will not have some trashy peasants taking his things from him. He heard Gnarl exclaim and decided that he could live with that, while the Sandaime looked very angry as well. Who exactly steals your things, Naruto? The old man questioned, and Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Hell if I know, I leave and somehow people get in. When I lock the door they just bust it down, and I have to fix it. Naruto offered while he heard Gnarl grind his teeth. Man, those minions were sure loyal. Naruto, if you want I can let you keep that place secret. However, I want you to promise you'll visit me at least once a week so I can make sure you're alright. The Hokage ordered, and Naruto grinned inwardly before nodding with a big stupid smile. That's right, I'll smile like an idiot, but be warned, for beneath this simple smile, no matter how weak it seems, is a darkness you'll never escape, the blonde thought to himself as he opened both his glowing orbs. Ooh, I like that, master. I like that a lot. Quick doc, write that down. Gnarl exclaimed while Naruto snickered in his mind at the antics of the old minion master. Hey Jiji, why are ninja only 12 when they graduate from the academy? Naruto suddenly questioned, and Sarutobi chuckled lightly in his throat. Well, Naruto, if you would just pay attention and clap back you'd know that. The man said with a smile, and Naruto narrowed his eyes a second before smiling when the man opened his own eyes. But you make these things sound so much more fun, Jiji. Naruto exclaimed while Gnarl seemed to laugh. And the winner of the award for Best Overlord acting like something he isn't, the Overlord. Doc's voice came before laughing, and the sounds of him being smashed into the ground came, Gnarl sighing while Naruto did a mental bow to his minions, wondering if Doc was trying to be funny or if they actually had a real award for him. Well then, Naruto, the reason is because after the last great shinobi war, the need for ninja declined. Nowadays, where they used to be genin who were 9 and younger when they would graduate, they are usually 12 when they graduate. Thus we are now allowed to give 3 years of extra training to all of our ninja and allow them to grow further before sending them out into the world of the shinobi. Sarutobi explained while Naruto began to mull something over. Hey Jiji, if that's the case then when do we learn elemental jutsu like the Anbu use? Naruto questioned of the old man who blinked several times. What do you mean, Naruto? You're all supposed to learn at least one before graduating. Sarutobi stated with narrowed eyes, making Naruto inwardly laughed. This situation seemed to hold promise. Well, all we've learned in terms of jutsu is the 3 basics. The clans have their kids learning personal jutsu, and I think that's it. The blonde said seemingly innocently and saw a scowl appear on Sarutobi's face. Heh, got the old man hook, line, and sinker. Looks like the council has been reporting some faulty information to me on the academy standards, he said with a deadly tone, and Naruto actually shivered for a second as the old man's killing intent was unleashed for less than a fraction of a second. Well, why not get back at them, Jiji? Naruto offered with a grin while his eyes squinted shut so the old man wouldn't notice the glow as the sun started to go down, thus taking the possibility of it merely being the sun reflecting off them away. How so, Naruto? Sarutobi questioned with a grin, knowing the ways of the infamous prankster from hell would most likely shine through. Alright, ninja, what should they know before they graduate? Naruto questioned, and Sarutobi was silent for a few moments. The 3 basic jutsu, at least 1 elemental and supplementary jutsu, tree walking, basic stealth techniques, escape techniques, and of course, they should all know a taijutsu style that's not the basic one, but one of their own that they can use well, and last is a little kenjutsu, not a full styler type, but enough so they can take on short or long range enemies. Sarutobi said, and Naruto felt his jaw plainly drop open at what he just heard. Holy hecking nonsense, was he trying to make Super Nin? Gigi, there's no way someone from a civilian family could have all that. Hell, some clans I know couldn't get all that together in the time they're supposed to graduate from the academy. Naruto nearly yelled with wide eyes, and Sarutobi shrugged his shoulders once. I wanted to ensure that our genin didn't die, so I put standards fairly high, but something tells me I should look at Chunin standards under the council's rule as well. Jonin standards are still under my jurisdiction after all, Sarutobi said with a fairly diabolical grin, while Naruto calmed himself down and made contact with Gnarl. Yes, master? The minion master questioned as Naruto tried to appear to be thinking of what to do to get back at the council. Gnarl, I need taijutsu and kenjutsu scrolls, one of each so I can back my exam, get them from the fighters and backbackin's guilds. Also a couple stealth, evasion, and escape scrolls from the thieves guild. And last, I want you to find me at least one elemental and supplementary jutsu in the old sage guild, Naruto ordered of the minion master, while hearing something like scratches, possibly the old minion writing all this down. Right master, I'll get Shin on that as soon as possible. Gnarl said before yelling at whom Naruto could only vacuum was Shin. Well Gigi, you've taken into account skill. But did you ever think about our mental development? Are children really mentally developed enough to be ninja? No, we're not. We aren't yet because we haven't normally been exposed to brutality, nor have we dealt with our childish problems. Girls at my age are usually more worried about looks, cute boys, their figures, and makeup to worry about what being a real kunoichi entails. Well, boys at my age are headstrong, rebellious, girl crazy, and oftentimes quick to anger. Naruto explained with a smile, and Sarutobi blinked before frowning in thought at the blonde's words. True Naruto, very true, what would you suggest then? Sarutobi questioned and a grin crossed over the blonde's face, his eyes still squinted so he couldn't see the diabolic look in them. Well, if you wait a couple more years for them to graduate, play down on history, and add more real insight into the life of a shinobi that might help. Add in an elemental jutsu portion, more clawbacks on chakra control for those with more than average, a kenjutsu clawback, a couple scroll could be left in the care of the school that details certain taijutsus, and then add in the stealth and escape clawbacks. I'm sure your shinobi should be as skilled both physically and mentally for their duty, Naruto explained, and Sarutobi actually smiled. That got things done his way, weakened the civilians' ability to get more useless ninja into the ranks, while making it seem fair, hehehe. You're a maniacal genius, Naruto. As for a new age, I'd say around 15, not too old that we lose ninja, but not so young that they're still childish. What do you think? Sarutobi said with a wide smile, then questioned of the blonde, and didn't see the proud grin on the blonde's face for what it really was. I'm 13, meaning I'll be 16 when we graduate cause I'm a year older than everyone in my clawback. He also thought to himself idly, wondering how much bigger he'd be by that time. Cool. Just don't say I made the idea and the council will be all for it. Naruto said, and Sarutobi inwardly agreed with the blonde. The council would already be in an uproar for him getting back in control of the academy. He didn't need them getting on his back about taking the demon's advice as well. Danzo would approve however. They used to get along quite well until the council came along at least. Alright Naruto, now then, when can I expect a visit from you next? Sarutobi said, then questioned with a smile, and Naruto took a thoughtful look. Probably Saturday Gigi, I have a lot of stuff to move after all. Naruto said, then mused to himself, and the old man nodded his head in agreement before the blonde crossed his arms behind his head. So, see you later Gigi. With that, Naruto quickly flipped out of his seat and jumped out of the door, his face darkening as he ran down the stairs with an insidious look on his face. It was so easy to use that old fool. Nindo Apartments. Naruto walked into his apartment and whistled, seeing as the minions had already cleaned the place out, even somehow bringing both his fridge and stove with them. Efficient little idiots, I'll give them that much, the blonde said to himself while walking into his room, turning, then entering the closet and using the waypoint gate to appear in the dark tower. His things all piled together with his clothes and armor left out of it, while they had his bed placed to the side of his throne. Sire. You've returned at last. Came a cry of glee as Gnarl waddled over to him, a new jester to his right, while what looked like the old jester, now wearing a tiny white apron with a red cross on the front, walked to his left. This is the new jester, feel free to kick him around if you wish. Gnarl said while waving to the jester, who held up his jester rod and wiggled it around. Hail. Savior of the Tower Heart. Jester called out while Naruto ignored him and walked forward, noting that he really did need to find a crane for this place if he wanted to fix it up a bit. Gnarl, I managed to make sure I'll have a couple years and a plausible excuse for getting stronger in the next 4 years at the least. What do you recommend we start with? Naruto stated, then questioned while walking to his throne and sitting down. Actually, sire, I'm somewhat confused with your actions towards the Hokage. While you expertly manipulated the man, I find it somewhat strange that you would willingly increase the efficiency of Konoha's ninja forces. Could you please tell me exactly what we gain from this? Gnarl explained, then questioned while scratching his head, and Naruto rubbed his chin. Yes, Gnarl. Firstly, I'll be able to get stronger without worry. Secondly, the Hokage will obviously be keeping a closer eye on the academy from now on. Naruto explained, and Gnarl seemed confused once more. And that helps you how, sire? He questioned, and Naruto chuckled in his throat. Because Gnarl, even if I learn several ancient techniques from the guilds, I still need to understand what they teach in Klebak. With the Hokage monitoring the academy, he'll be watching for signs of favoritism, which if he does, those teachers are going to have their jobs taken away and possibly even their backs kicked. Secondly, he'll be watching to ensure they help problem cases more thoroughly than prodigies. Prodigies don't need much work, thus he'd want the problem cases, like me, helped out more often. Naruto explained, and Gnarl nodded his head slowly while stroking his beard. Well, that does help, but it hardly seems good, sire. Your village has often sent people to attack you, now they'll be able to pay for the skills of the younger generation at a substantially lower rate to attempt to backbackinate you. Gnarl tried, and Naruto actually grinned despite himself. Normally, Gnarl, you'd be right, however. In light of the fact that the council was withholding information from him, the Hokage will have grounds to expel this current council and recreate it with members of his own choosing. Thus eliminating the constant threat to my life in the village. The council members who ordered those backbackinations were obviously only wealthy enough to do so because they got bribes from others outside of the council. Naruto explained, then took a deep breath before continuing with his long explanation. Now that the village council no longer has that kind of pull, and the new members will see that trying to go behind the Hokage's back is a bad idea, we only have to worry about the civilian branch getting angry and pooling their remaining funds for some stupid attack. However, with the minions on my side, even if they did this, it wouldn't really matter as much. Thus, while I've increased the overall effectiveness of the shinobi, I've taken the crutch right out from under the council, thus leaving them all more or less helpless. Gnarl, do you have any idea who will be put onto the council? Naruto explained, then questioned, and Gnarl nodded his head slowly. Yes, sire, at least if the village charter hasn't changed in the past 100 years. I believe the seats go to those who have brought the village great honor. Gnarl said, and Naruto nodded his head with a smirk. I'm actually surprised I remembered that from one of Iruka-sensei's clapbacks. But that is true, now Gnarl, very few civilians have recently done anything to bring honor to the village, thus, shinobi will be the primary members of the council again, and once I bring my true plan into action, this will serve me greatly, Naruto explained with a grin. Which was mirrored by Gnarl, who then coughed and cleared his throat. Sire, I thank you for that explanation. Now as for your training, I would start with Tai and Kenjutsu. While none of the minions use it, I believe that your lordship would gain a bit from a different style. It would also come in handy should you ever run into some wretched monsters on your travels in the future to rebuild the tower, sire. Shin should be returning with the scrolls you requested soon. SBO has been studying ever since he got the order, so our spy should be ready soon as well. Gnarl suggested, then stated with a grin, and Naruto nodded his head slowly. Alright, until then. What's the status on the tower thus far? Naruto questioned of Gnarl, who grumbled under his breath for a few moments. Obviously, it's still in a state of disrepair, sire. Not only that, but we've been unable to locate any more of the tower items in the bulk of the lost sector, and I felt it would be best to ask for your permission if we wish to search through the rest of Konoha. Gnarl grumbled with a visible sneer before adding at the end with a low bow, and Naruto frowned himself, leaning back into his throne and placing his chin on his fist. How about places outside of Konoha we could search? Any new waypoint gates opened? Naruto questioned and saw a grin on Gnarl's face at this. Yes, sire, we were contacted by the leader of the white minions known simply as Stripe. I haven't heard from one of them in so long I had thought they were all destroyed, Gnarl mused, then shook his head quickly and got back on track. It seems that they are currently in the Wraith Land, sire, once a budding village of peace and prosperity. Gnarl looked like he was going to retch for a few moments before continuing on with a grin. However, the betrayer tore it asunder, creating numerous spirits which now seek his death and vengeance, much like yourself. Also turning the land into a foul, desolate place with nothing left but death and pain. Gnarl explained before saying with glee, and Naruto rubbed his chin in thought. However, numerous low-level demons and specters are in our way of getting to them. Only the blues could go into that place and fight with you against those spectral freaks. Gnarl said, and Naruto grunted before leaning back in his throne. Any good news then? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl frowned. Yes. I sent several browns into the forest around Konoha known as the Forest of Death. They encountered several greens being attacked by trolls and giant beetles. Although they were too few browns to retrieve the green hive, perhaps sire could go into the forest and retrieve our lost minions and their hive once he feels he's up to it. Gnarl offered and Naruto nodded his head slowly. Gnarl, what can the greens do exactly? Naruto questioned and the aging minion master grinned to himself widely. The greens are our stealth army sire, capable of becoming invisible to all senses when they wish it, well, except smell of course. The greens tend to smell of rotten fish guts mixed with stinkweed. Gnarl explained and Naruto shivered in disgust from the sounds of what that would smell like. If we had the greens they could go looking around Konoha covertly for any tower objects. Naruto mused to himself and Gnarl nodded his head in agreement with his master. What do you think I'd encounter in the forest, Gnarl? Naruto then questioned and Gnarl clicked his tongue once. Most likely several trolls and giant beetles, sire, they are known to breed in that area after all. Gnarl stated and Naruto wondered why that was before deciding he really didn't care all that much. Alright Gnarl, when do you think that Shin will get here so I can start training to get the greens? Naruto questioned and a shower of sparks over the water at the front of the room alerted him as another gray walked towards them while carrying numerous scrolls. He looked like the others, save his clothing which was an old red cap, a small leather vest that looked worn, a loincloth like the other minions, a pair of worn leather gloves, and some cloth over his feet in place of shoes. Master, I brought you your scrolls. The gray exclaimed while depositing the scrolls before Naruto, confirming that they were definitely smarter than the browns at the very least. Good work Shin, what scroll is for what? Gnarl said then questioned and Shin put the scrolls into numerous piles, then walked over to the water gate as two browns appeared while pushing a wheelbarrow with about a dozen different scrolls. I couldn't decide what the master would want Gnarl, so I brought all of the most powerful and dangerous scrolls that I could find. Shin exclaimed and Gnarl grinned as the browns tilted the wheelbarrow up to allow the scrolls to tumble to the floor, where Shin moved quickly, placing them all into different piles for record in the future when the library in the private quarters was fixed up, where he would undoubtedly be staying. Alright master, Shin has the scrolls placed into different piles based on what's in them. What do you wish to start with, taijutsu or kenjutsu? Gnarl questioned motioning to the scrolls and questioned, and Naruto frowned before nodding his head. Taijutsu, Jiji said we'd need to know a taijutsu style that wasn't the academy one took back. With kenjutsu it really isn't as immediately necessary seeing as I have a few years to learn it. Naruto stated and Gnarl nodded his head before having Shin move all but the taijutsu scrolls on the ground so Naruto could look through them for the one he wanted. Naruto rolled his eyes at this before sitting down in front of the pile and folding his legs under him. Pulling out the first scroll he read it for a few moments before tossing it over his shoulder to hit Jester in the head much to Gnarl and Doc's muffled. Naruto continued doing this, stopping a few of the taijutsu styles for a bit longer before eventually tossing all but the final scroll at Jester behind him, the three stooges all laughing their backs off as they saw this. Master, please at least give one a chance before you throw the scroll at Jester, Gnarl pleaded half-heartedly as he enjoyed it when Jester was hurt, whether it was old or new, some habits were just too hard for an old minion to break. I know Gnarl, but that last batch didn't feel right for some reason, Naruto murmured, then examined this new scroll and looked it over. It was given the Melanli of the Dark Fist, for an odd reason he felt that he liked the name and read on. Grinning as he saw that this style was basically about beating the opponent in the most brutal, bloody way possible, the blonde boy then turned to Gnarl with an evil glint in his eyes and a grin on his lips as he spoke one word. Bingo. And with that he tossed the scroll to Gnarl, who looked it over and grinned widely seeing what the blonde had found. Ooh. I like. Gnarl said with a glint in his single eye before looking to Shin who nodded and walked over to take the scroll, then rushed down the stairs. Shin will train you in this taijutsu style in the spawning pit, sire. Gnarl said and Naruto nodded while preparing to get up only for Gnarl to hold up a single claw. Before you go sire, I thought it best that we speak of a few things you should know. Gnarl then said and Naruto nodded with a sigh, he really wanted to learn the Dark Fist thing. Well, where do we start Gnarl? Naruto questioned and Gnarl sat down while waving Jester and Doc away, the two greys rushing off to find something to do around the tower as the browns all over the room continued to move rocks and rubble to clear the room as best they could without a crane. First of all sire, have you noticed how bright it is outside even though it's the middle of winter? Also how it's like this all around Konoha all year round? Gnarl questioned and Naruto slowly nodded his head. Do you know why that is sire? Gnarl questioned and the boy shook his head, he just figured the Hokages picked a spot like this on purpose, truthfully sire, I believe it's because of your rather uncorrupted disposition. Gnarl said and Naruto raised a brow towards the minion master while scratching his head. What does that have to do with why it's so nice in Konoha? He questioned and Gnarl rubbed his head trying to think of the words to explain to Naruto. Simple lord. This tower is not only linked to you, the minions, and everything in it, but to the land around it as well. Gnarl exclaimed and Naruto's eyes widened dramatically. Exactly, this tower would be just as bright as you are if it was completed, and so would the land around it. Gnarl said, and Naruto twitched a few times. He was the reason for all the cheer. He was the reason for all the good crops. He was the reason for why everything was so hecking nice in Konoha, and they treated him like garbage. Hell no. How do we change that, Gnarl? I want those idiots in Konoha to be living through nonsense storms by the time this tower is back to its full glory. Naruto said through gritted teeth, and Gnarl chuckled to himself before frowning lightly. You'll need pure evil energy, sire. As you kill evil and Melanies and absorb their own darkness, your disposition shall shift to a much darker nature, the tower shall become darker as well, and once we reforge your armor and forge your weapons, so would it, the land shall also change, Lord, it would become as death, the plants shall shrivel, the sky shall blacken. And storms will run rampant across the land, spreading misery and woe to all who live in it. Gnarl exclaimed before jumping to his feet, and Naruto grinned to himself before frowning. What about you, Gnarl? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl blinked, then thought for a few moments. The tower has its own food supply, though it is running a bit short as of late, and without the Reds we cannot cook anything, though eventually we may even find a brewery for the tower, so the minions could have a permanent boost of power. And add onto that the tower is basically indestructible with the tower heart intact, we'd be the only ones not suffering, as well as any you took as slaves, servants, and prisoners, of course, Lord, and your mistress, Gnarl explained, then mused to himself absently, and Naruto frowned. Alright, you've mentioned a mistress several times now, Gnarl. What exactly is that? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl snickered to himself before clearing his throat. The mistress of the tower is the only one who will be able to carry your lordship's child. Any other woman in the tower is immune to this, as well as unable to carry any others. It's a precaution to ensure that there's no possible way for two heirs to come from multiple women. You can use servants and the like as much as you please, but they will never become pregnant. Gnarl explained before a kind of weird perverted grin came to his face, and most of that just went over the blonde's head, making Gnarl sigh. I'll fully explain that after I give you the talk, sire, Gnarl then said, and Naruto nodded his head slowly before taking a thoughtful expression. Is there anything else you have to explain to me then, Gnarl? Naruto questioned, and Gnarl stroked his beard for a few moments. Not immediately, sire, no, but I would like to ask to be allowed control of Espio for a while. I need to check a few things out in your village, and once he has finished reading those stealth scrolls and such, I believe he would be best suited for it. Gnarl questioned, then explained his reason, and Naruto nodded his consent. Thank you, Lord. Gnarl then said with a bow of his head, while Naruto slowly got up and headed down into the spawning pit to meet up with Shin. Looking around, he noticed idly that it seemed far more intact than what it had before, with most of the rubble moved, while Shin sat over to one side reading the Dark Fist scroll with a grin on his face. Shin. Naruto stated as he walked over to the minion, and it jumped to its feet and grinned to its master widely. Master. I have been reading up on the Dark Fist style, would you like a summary or to begin training immediately? Shin said, then questioned, and Naruto thought about it before he got his focus. He'd rather just get to the training, but it would benefit him if he understood what the style was like. Alright Shin, what's the style about? Naruto questioned, and Shin cleared his throat before opening the scroll. The Dark Fist was aptly named this due to the fact it was created by a man of an especially evil disposition. Dark Fist looks like brawling, however it has several techniques added to it in order to add a bit of surprise to it. Dark Fist was also known for its signature jutsu, Chakra Blade Jutsu, in which chakra was formed over the fist or palm and could literally pierce through flesh and bone like a solid blade, making it especially deadly. Shin began and then took a deep breath before continuing. Many other supplementary jutsu were added to the style by others who would use it, oftentimes this was thieves, as the style had no finesse, it was merely brute strength combined with unpredictability, and a splash of special techniques that made it very dangerous. Millard, Shin explained before letting out some air, and Naruto began to grin widely. Alright, so it's unpredictable, thereby has no real pattern? Naruto asked, and Shin nodded his head to the boy. It uses primarily brute force in a brawling type way, so while it's a style, the only real thing you have to know is the specialty jutsu, right? Naruto questioned, and Shin shook his head no. There are certain techniques that don't use chakra as well, sire. He said, and Naruto frowned before shrugging his shoulders. Still, for a soon-to-be overlord, is there a better style? Naruto questioned, and Shin shook his head with an evil grin on his face. No sire, none at all, that I could find at least. So shall we begin with the training then? Shin said, then questioned of the blonde-haired boy, who gave a quick grin before nodding his head. Lips were licked as the betrayer stood over a now dead unicorn, its precious lifeblood having been drained from it completely. Not the best of drinks, but it has allowed me to survive all these centuries, the man mused before kicking the dead unicorn into a stream and then pulling his helmet on over his head, eyes glowing like twin pools of hellfire. Now I'll need to plan. Gnarl will undoubtedly be making sure this overlord survives. He'll be sending minions out to kill, even while his master doesn't know it. That will be a problem. The betrayer mused to himself till a pair of slender arms wrapped around his shoulders. Something wrong, darling? Came the seductive purr of the succubus he'd allied with so long ago. Perhaps, a new overlord has finally risen, the betrayer stated, and the succubus stiffened before pressing her body against the far-fallen knight's back. Do you think he'll be a problem for us in the future? She questioned, and the betrayer scoffed. The boy is barely 12, even with Gnarl's aid, and the hero bloodline. I highly doubt he'll survive the trials of becoming the overlord as I had too, the betrayer said boastfully while crossing his arms and glaring into the distance. What of your armies and the drow? Have they allied with us? The betrayer questioned, and the succubus giggled while inhaling the former knight's scent. My armies are at your beck and call, Millard. The drow are skeptical of you actually being the overlord of legend. Maybe we should just destroy them and be done with that whole race, the succubus offered, and felt the betrayer stiffen in her grasp before shaking his head from side to side and cupping his chin. No, I did not save those worthless elven women just to destroy their descendants when they worship me as their god. Also, they're the only elves that make any darn sense, the betrayer stated, and the succubus pouted her lips before smiling and kissing the back of the far-fallen knight's neck. Then what will we do? We can't prove you're him without the minions after all, and even with the minions, drow are so paranoid about what to expect from their god, or rather the true overlord's revival, the succubus reminded, and she saw the ancient man's eyes light up before a dark aura seemed to gather around him. Well, my pet, why don't we lure this false overlord of Gnarls to the drow at some point? I'm sure they could deal with him and a couple of weakling minions, the betrayer said aloud, and the succubus queen reared her head back and laughed into the night, filled with glee as she grinned to the man. Darling, how wonderfully twisted, but what if he should survive and the drow ally with him? She questioned, and the betrayer merely chuckled, his arms crossing over his chest as an idea came to him. Who do the elves hate beyond all rational thought and would ally with even the most twisted of warriors to destroy, or rather, a former hero. The man quipped, and the succubus laughed once more, her four wings curling around herself and the man. The drow, Millard, they hate the drow more than they curse the names of the former hero Oberon Greenhaze and Goldo of the dwarves, she admitted with a twisted grin over her lips, and the betrayer nodded his head. As do the dwarves, we'll gather them together to face this false overlord of Gnarls. And once that is done, we will seek out more power. The beholders and wraiths of the desert shall also be a welcome addition to my armies as well. Yes, with all their power combined, it won't matter what this weakling overlord does, I shall tear him asunder and reclaim my throne. The betrayer said before clenching a fist as the succubus rubbed her cheek into his scarf. And then together, we shall rule all of the lands, the succubus said with a giggle, and the betrayer nodded his head to her before laughing to himself. Hidden from view, however, someone else watched this exchange. Fanged teeth were gritted as this figure saw what was happening. Wings were stretched outward as the figure flew into the air without a sound. Clearly, this true overlord would need some help in the future if he wanted to become the ruler of all the lands, and she knew just how to help him, after all. It was always best to look out for one's best interests. Dark Tower. Gnarl was waiting when a light plop sounded behind him, and upon turning he was slightly surprised to see a grey. This one was dressed oddly. It had a black towel wrapped around its face and head, with a pair of fingerless leather gloves with steel plates over the backs of his forearms and black wrappings covering the rest from view, a small belt around its waist with armor hanging down from it, spiked knee and elbow pads for more protection, black leather made into armor over its chest and shoulders. And black wrappings over his feet. Does the master require his spy yet, Gnarl? Espio questioned emotionlessly, and Gnarl grinned widely, seeing the grey as he was. Impressive, Espio, where did you find that outfit exactly? Gnarl questioned, and Espio was silent for a few moments before answering. I found leather and pieces of steel around the backbackens guild, Gnarl, was all he said, and Gnarl nodded his head, then frowned. Espio, I felt a chill in the wind a moment ago. Gnarl stated, and Espio nodded his head to the aging minion master. As did I, a storm approaches, but when? Espio stated, then questioned calmly, having read how to kill his emotions to complete any mission. I don't know when, Espio, and though we have years to train the master, I want you to head out into the village. Seek out any tower objects, then notify me immediately so we can have some minions bring them back here, Gnarl ordered, and Espio nodded his head once before flipping several times until he landed before the tower gate at the foot of the throne room and vanished in a shower of sparks. Turning to the throne, Gnarl frowned while rubbing his goatee. Things were not going quite as smoothly as they had in the past. No doubt because of the betrayer, Gnarl spat out before waddling over to the throne and sitting next to it, crossing his arms while still pulling on his goatee. We need to find more of the tower objects, only then will Master be strong enough to do away with the betrayer at last. Gnarl mused to himself, then began to think of ways to hasten his master's training. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the story. If you did, please like the video. Also consider subscribing and sharing this with your friends. This will really mean a lot for me. I'll see you in the next one.